Hey guys, my name is Emma and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my TBR for May. I'm still on the floor, still filming down here. This will now be video 3 in this setup. Don't worry, it's not a permanent thing. I'm just being really lazy today and I want to chill out on the floor with my rabbits. I also don't normally do monthly TBRs, but I've just decided I want to give it a little bit of a go. The seasonal ones I wasn't finding that I was sticking to them particularly. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. I technically had a monthly TBR for April because it was just my Owls TBR, and I've kind of enjoyed the structure that has represented. So I'm going to try creating my own structure. I'm also going to be doing a TBR which is pretty much just going to be ebooks for this month, with 2 notable exceptions that I will come to at the end of the video. But basically I realised that I've been woefully neglecting my e-reader over the past few months, which is really stupid because I actually asked for a brand new one for Christmas, which my dad got me, which is here. I read it a bit over Christmas and then kind of pretty much ignored it for like way too long over the past few months, and that's really stupid because I asked for it for Christmas and should be using it far more. And I definitely think that the ebooks that I have, even though I'm just as psyched about reading them because I bought them for a particular reason, they definitely get left and forgotten because I don't have a physical reminder of them on my shelves to say, hey, you want to read that? So I was a little bit cheeky the other day and bought a bunch of ebooks that I definitely don't have the book credits for, but that's totally fine. And I figured to try and increase my e-reader usage, I would just spend an entire month just reading on my e-reader, again with 2 notable exceptions. So everything is going to be off of this today, guys. So I've just got a few books that I'm going to try and prioritize in the month of May. I actually organized my e-reader by having a separate to be read folder. So I have 16 books currently on my e-reader that are to be read, and it will become 17 because there is one more that I need to pick up. And that one is I am reading the Book of M by, I can't remember the name of the author, it will be up on the screen. But this is going to be the pick of the month for mine and Amy's book that we read for our kind of like unofficial buddy read book club type thing, which is called the Bibliotherapy sessions. Amy is from Amy Gets Lit and I'll link her channel down below. We've been doing this now, this will be our 3rd month. We've done Suicide Club and Once Upon a River, and we have videos on both of those. One of them is up, the other one will be coming up in the next like week or 2, fingers crossed for you. And yeah, the Book of M is just the next book that we're going to be reading. This is a book that is something to do with a dystopian future where people lose their memory because of rain, maybe? Or was it their shadows? I'm losing track of my dystopian fiction that I want to read. But basically, this one sounds really cool, and I know that it's not just us buddy reading it this month. There's a few other people who are keen. I can't remember exactly who they are, they're on the Twitter, but I'll link their channels down below like once I'm actually posting this one. And then in terms of other books that I'm interested in reading, sorry, I've got my e-reader in front of me so I can read them off. I really want to get to The Night Tiger by Yangzi Chu, I think that is. The font is tiny on this. This has been on my radar for like a couple of months now. So this is a historical fiction set in 1930s Malaysia and covers the relationship between 2 of the main characters, and there's something to do with a little bit of magical realism, and there is definitely some kind of like Malaysian folklore linked to this. It sounds fairly magical and glorious and beautiful, and I know that Olive from A Book Olive has just finished reading it and has a review about it that I haven't actually watched yet, and I'm kind of tempted to not watch it until after I've read the book myself. Whenever Olive picks a book, especially when it comes to fiction, I generally trust her judgment really highly. So this was on my list anyway as something that I was interested in reading, and then when I saw that she'd picked it up, I was like, right, this has to get bumped higher in my list than what it currently is. So I am really keen for that one. Another one that's been like on my radar for a while, but rather than being a new release, this is like a really old book now, is Rachel Cane's Ill Wind, and this is the first book in her Weather Warden series. I've read a lot of her Great Library series. I'm up to date with that one. I think I'm waiting for book 5 to come out, and I really enjoy it. And the Weather Warden one is something to do with elemental witches who are hired by the state to help control kind of natural disasters, and I think each one follows a different character and is linked to a different kind of disaster. It generally looks a bit interesting. I don't know a crazy amount about it, but I really enjoyed Rachel Cane's writing style from the Great Library series, and I wanted to try something else of hers and just see if it was this particular series that held my attention. She's most famous for the Morganville Vampire series, which was like a big deal in the same era of like Twilight, but no, no way in hell I'm reading those. So I wanted to try one of her other ones, but the woman's been really prolific. She's got tons, so if this one doesn't pan out, I'll just try another one of her, from one of her other series. Then I have The Sewing Machine by Natalie Fergie, and this is a historical fiction with like a modern day story going alongside it, and it's something to do with a sewing machine being like passed down generations and the story that comes from that. I'm quite a crafty person. I knit, I do embroidery. I did own a sewing machine and can sew a bit, but I wouldn't say I'm particularly proficient at that. But it's something that I really associate with both of my grandmothers on like both my mum and my dad's side of the family, and both of them have now passed away. So I'm hoping that this book will kind of, I don't know, potentially resonate more because of my emotional connection with crafting in general. And I like historical fiction, so I think it'd be really interesting to read it. Then I picked up some books crazy cheap back around Christmas time, which are like a high fantasy thing, but it's based around the idea of like the tattoos in that world holding magic. And as somebody who is relatively heavily tattooed, you can never see them because they're all like not here basically in shot, but both my legs are fairly covered now and getting more and more so. And I have all 3 books because they were like £1 each. I think the first one is Ink Mage. I could be wrong about that. It's Ink Mage, A Painted Goddess, The Tattooed Duchess by Victor Gischler? I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't read that from here. The black and grey on a Kindle is a pain in the ass to try and read. So yeah, so I kind of want to start that and give that a go, more so I know whether I want to keep this entire series on my Kindle or not, because I bought the whole thing for crazy cheap because like they were doing a bundle deal, but I have no idea if this is worth sticking with. So I want to at least get through book 1 to know whether I want to keep book 2 or not, because I don't like them cluttering up my to be read folder if I know I'm never actually going to get around to them. I also bought Bluff by Michael Cardos, and this is a contemporary fiction specifically looking at like gambling and poker, I'm pretty sure, either poker or blackjack, and it reminded me, it sounded very similar to like the movie 21, which is excellent and so much fun and has Kevin Spacey in it. And it's all about like conning and, as the name suggests, bluffing things. And it sounds really interesting. It's been on my radar for freaking ages and I really want to get around to it super soon, and I finally bought it, so I want to then actually commit to it. So I've got Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray, which was on my Owls TBR for astronomy because it has the word stars in the title. I'm going to let you guys know now that I'm almost definitely not going to end up reading it for the Owls. It will not tick off my astronomy one. I don't have enough time. I just don't have enough time left in April at this moment of filming to finish that off. It's like 500 pages, if not more. But I may get around to it in May. I may not. I know it's like a big sci-fi epic, and I don't know if I'm in the mood for that at the moment. But if I am, then that is the one that I'm going to go for. One that looks really, really entertaining is that Jane Washington? Charming by Jane Washington. I'm pretty sure that this is YA, and it's something to do with like a fairy school where you get assigned a fairy tale, and then you have to make sure that that fairy tale pans out with the way that the story says. And this like young fairy in training gets assigned the tale of Cinderella, I'm pretty sure. And it just turns out that like the prince is a bit of a douche and the princess is a bit of a mess, and the whole thing sounds like a really just like fun twist on your classic fairy tale. I love fairy tale retellings. I think they're really entertaining, and this one sounded like it would be similar to Ella Enchanted in some way and have that sort of real fun spoofiness to it. If I do enjoy it, it is part of like a longer running series where each fairy tale is kind of taken separately, so I'm assuming it's like technically part of the same world, but each one is a separate standalone. So I'm intrigued by this, and a bit of light-hearted YA is always good fun. So that one is on there. Another one that I do want to get around to fairly soon is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. I don't remember a crazy amount about this. It's something to do with magic and also books, and you're like a magic historian and trying to protect books in some way. Basically, the reason why I want to get around to this one is I've been told by numerous people who I know like in my real life rather than here on BookTube that I would definitely enjoy this, including one of Andy's best mates, Maria, who is a really big reader and we have quite similar tastes, and she has smashed like all 5 books in this series over kind of the past few months, and that kind of a level of recommendation implies that I should totally do it. She says it's really easy to read and fairly light and chill, and as a book lover, a magical book about books totally should be up my street. So I think I did actually start it on like a train ride coming back from somewhere, but only got maybe 3 or 4 pages in before I reached my stop, and then I didn't really pick it up again. So I think it's now time to actually go for that one properly and commit some serious time to it. So those are all the books on my e-reader that I really want to get to, but I also have a few other books that I do need to get around to reading in May that I don't have in e-reader form. The first one of those is The Great Leader and the Fighter Pilot by Blaine Harden. So way back in February, my darling partner Andy and I decided to swap TBRs, and we set each other 5 books to read, and the intention was to read them all in the month of February and then come back and do a video about it. Now, regulars on this channel will notice that that video has not materialised, and that's because neither of us have finished that TBR, despite it being several months later. Yeah, it didn't really go according to plan. I'm doing better than Andy because I only have this 1 book left. He still has 3 of mine left to read. Boy is not doing so well. So I really need to read this so that then I can film my side of my video discussing his TBR. And I can't believe I just haven't got around to it yet. The main reason being is because it's a fairly intense subject. This is about North Korea, and it's about a fighter pilot who like defects and brings one of the planes over. I think it's loosely based on a true story, but it's also covering, like, it's a weird mix of it's like that kind of faction thing where some of it's true, some of it's like taking liberties and creating a good story. But basically the font's really small, and I know that's such a stupid ass reason to have not read a book, but like, the font's small. My brain's tired at the moment. In the time since Andy and I filmed that video, I have started a new job, hated it, and left within 5 weeks, and then started another new job, and I'm now coming up to a time of filming 3 weeks in that job. Like, holy crap, man, life has been hectic. I have not had the time for font this small. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. Whereas now, hopefully in May, with everything being a little bit calmer, I will have time for that. So it is my intention by the end of May I will have this done and this challenge finished. And then I always like to have an audiobook kind of milling around in there somewhere, and I don't actually have any of these on audiobook. Normally I just kind of double up and pick up a credit for whatever one I'm currently reading at the time. I do have The Fellowship of the Rings on audiobook at the moment, sitting on my Audible account, and I think it might be time. I think I'm going to go for it. I said back in my Classics TBR that I did want to try and tackle Lord of the Rings and at least get through the first book in 2019. My Classics TBR is not going well for the year particularly. I keep attempting to start books from it and then abandoning them, so I'm hoping that the audiobook of Lord of the Rings might actually get me to get through it. I listened to The Hobbit when I was a kid and absolutely loved it, so fingers crossed the narrative style, like the way listening to the audiobook will, like, that'll continue through, and maybe some nostalgia will help. I'm kind of in 2 minds about Lord of the Rings. People either say that it's trippy nonsense or that it's amazing, so we're just gonna have to see. But I think that's pretty much it for me. These are the books that I'm attempting to get through in May. There's a fair amount of both historical fiction and kind of magical sci-fi fantasy-esque type stuff, and there is no non-fiction, which there is a chance that I will just pick up a physical non-fiction, but I'm going to, wherever possible, try and stick to my e-reader and just see what that is like for a month, to really kind of commit to that format and get as much use out of it as I can, because it is a brilliant thing in its own right, and it's really useful and helpful, especially with like the walk to work and back and all sorts of stuff like that. So I need to use it more, and this is my pledge too. So that's it from me. I hope you have a wonderful reading week, and I will chat to you soon. Bye guys.